Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Make sure you go to hometownstation.com for all the latest and greatest in the Santa Clarita Valley. And speaking of the greatest in Santa Clarita, we have a very special guest in studio. It is Lauren Spevack. I got it?
You got it.
Okay, Lauren Spevack, and she is a teacher over at Albert Einstein Academy, and you teach 8th grade American history and AP European history.
That is true.
That is true. Okay, so how did you? I want to talk about you a little bit. Okay,
all right.
We'll get to other stuff, all that other stuff later.
Sure.
But I want to talk about you a little bit. Where did you always want to be a teacher? What did you want to do?
I did not want to be a teacher.
Okay.
At all. I've loved history for a very long time. I got that from my dad, who's a huge World War II buff, and I was always reading books around the house, and so I've loved history for quite a long time, and I really fell in love with it. I remember in my AP European history class when I had a teacher who was speaking about Henry VIII, King of England, and she mentioned that he essentially didn't get his own way, so he started his own church. And I thought that was fantastic. Granted, that's an oversimplification, but I just was, really? That happens? People have that much power?
You can just do that?
You can just do that? Evidently, he could. And I just thought that was kind of awesome. And I was fascinated from there on out with really monarchies and how people, manage and often misuse and abuse their power. And history very much reads like a story. So I was fascinated, and it was recommended to me by my mother, oh, you should be a teacher. You should share your love of this with students. To which my response was, why would I want to work with teenagers? That sounds horrendous. And I had done some volunteer work in college, working with an after-school program and kind of tutoring kids, and I enjoyed myself, but I was very much stuck in this mentality that, dealing with teenagers all day would just kill me.
Drive you to the brink of insanity.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And so in college, I entered an academic track, and I was going to eventually get my doctorate. And I realized in doing my undergraduate research and speaking with my professors that you're not allowed to be funny in the academic world.
Academia.
Humorous footnotes are generally frowned upon.
Oh, and you learned that the hard way?
I learned that the hard way.
Ah.
And that just wasn't acceptable to me.
Okay.
Because history is hilarious. And so once again, my mother brought up the idea of teaching, again.
Uh-huh.
And I gave it more thought, and I thought, okay, I think I could do it. I love history enough, didn't love kids yet, that I'm going to go for it. So I applied for my master's in education at Stanford, and I went, and it was an incredible year of both sleeplessness and working with some of the most amazing kids and people, and just understanding this is it. This is what I'm meant to do. And though I don't like to admit it, and now I'm on radio admitting it,
here it is.
My mom was right.
Your mom was right. Yes, she was.
Telling me all along. And it turns out not only can I stand kids all day, I much prefer them to adults. It's fantastic.
Great.
And so that's what kind of my very long roundabout story.
Is this so Albert Einstein Academy? Is this your first teaching job? Or?
It is. I taught when I was in graduate school, but this will be my third year with Albert Einstein and my third year officially teaching. Okay,
it's obviously a little bit different than normal schools, right? Is it a little bit different?
It's a little bit different, yes. One, the size is probably the most obvious difference. It's significantly smaller.
That's
we have
awesome.
a cap of 75 students per grade, and that means it works out to about 25 kids in a classroom versus I have friends who are teaching 40 to 45 students.
That's crazy.
At a time, which is insane.
Yeah.
So it's different in that way, and the size just facilitates more student-teacher interaction. I can walk into a room and I can tell, okay, here are the kids, who are having a good day. Here are the kids who are a little off today, because I make those personal connections. I have time to do that with smaller classes, and it's fantastic. And it's also great because I can tell when students are understanding and when some students need further clarification. So the small school just allows teachers to really teach each individual child versus, all right, here's my set curriculum. I have to get through this if they're with me or not. We're just going to move.
So that's a cool thing. We're talking with Lauren Spevack. She is an 8th grade. And Miss Spevack?
Miss Spevack.
Miss Spevack. We're talking to Miss Spevack for all the students that are listening.
Shout out to my students, by the way. Yeah. I told them I would.
Okay, good. And you are an 8th grade teacher over American history and AP European history. So what? I have to ask you this because there was a moment where I was like, I want to be a history teacher. But then I changed to communications. And now I work in radio. But there was a moment where, what is your favorite area of history? I know you talked a little bit about the monarchies and stuff.
I love the Founding Fathers, the era of the Founding Fathers, because they were so much more complex than we're often led to believe, and the fact that they were real people who had real decisions to make, I feel like we often distance ourselves from, and we just kind of think of them as the ultimate kind of these deities almost. But it's way more interesting to actually look at them as real people and look at the ridiculous decisions they had to make in the time. It also doesn't help that, for instance, you learn about what a fantastic dancer George Washington was.
Wow.
He apparently was an amazing dancer.
Wow.
And also an avid fox hunter. So it's,
look at that.
It's tidbits like that just make it so much more appealing than just examining kind of even the overarching themes, which of course are fascinating, but I know a lot of useless information.
Oh, not useless.
Students would consider it useless.
For radio, I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and was it George Washington that couldn't tell a lie, right? Or is that a thing?
That's not a real story.
Oh, that's not a real story.
I mean, I'm sure he was
cherry trees, etc.
Very honest man, but the cherry tree thing, not true.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, okay. Sorry. I have a question. Actually, I do have a history question.
All right.
Okay. Now, this is what I heard, and this is what a teacher at Canyon High School told me.
Okay.
The Declaration of Independence wasn't really signed on July 4th.
It was signed on July 2nd.
I knew it.
And adopted on July 4th. But everyone had actually signed it by July 2nd. Yes. So that is true.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. That depresses me because I was hoping he was not telling me the truth. That we celebrate, of course, on the 4th.
But I mean, the day July 4th was the day it was officially adopted, and kind of.
Yeah, but people don't say that.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Touche.
Okay, so there it is. And now I'm sorely disappointed. But it's not your fault. I blame the Founding Fathers.
There you go.
Okay. But I appreciate you. Lauren Spevack, she is the 8th grade teacher over at Albert Einstein Academy. You can find more information at Albert Einstein Academy at hometownstation.com. Thanks for stopping by. This was fun.
Thank you so much.
We'll have to do more history lessons.
You got it.
Yeah,
anytime.
I am a big fan of history. Big fan.
How could you not be?
Right?
Right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.